Let's start. The threats are: queen takes queen. There are no checks in this position. The answer is queen takes queen. Rook takes queen, check. Bishop to e4. Rook takes pawn. Bishop takes rook. Let's continue. Here are threats in puzzle position. Knight takes pawn. Bishop takes pawn. Queen takes pawn, check. Knight takes pawn. Here are the checks. Queen takes pawn, check. Queen to a4, check. The best move in puzzle position is queen to a4, check. King to e7. Queen to b4, check. Queen to d6. Queen takes pawn, check. Let us go to the next puzzle. Threats in this position are: knight takes pawn. Knight takes pawn. Queen takes bishop. Bishop takes pawn. There are no checks in this position. Solution to the puzzle is: knight takes pawn. Pawn takes knight. Queen takes knight, check. Queen takes queen. Rook takes queen. Let's see the next puzzle. Let us look at threats in puzzle position. Rook takes bishop. Queen takes queen, check. Queen takes pawn, check. Checks in puzzle position are: rook to g5, check. h4, check. Queen takes queen, check. Queen takes pawn, check. Here is the solution to the puzzle. h4, check. King to h2. Queen takes queen. Another puzzle. Threats in this position are: bishop takes pawn. Queen takes pawn, check. Queen takes pawn. Queen takes knight. Rook takes pawn, check. Rook takes knight. Here are checks in puzzle position. Queen takes pawn, check. Queen to f4, check. Rook takes pawn, check. The answer is rook takes pawn, check. Pawn takes rook. Queen takes pawn, checkmate. Let us go to the next puzzle. Threats in puzzle position are: queen takes knight. Rook takes knight. There are no checks in this position. Answer to this puzzle is: rook takes knight. Pawn takes rook. Queen takes pawn, check. Queen to e6. Queen takes bishop. Let's continue. Threats in puzzle position are: pawn takes pawn. Bishop takes pawn. Rook takes pawn, check. The checks are: rook takes pawn, check. Here is the solution to the puzzle. Bishop takes pawn. Queen takes bishop. Rook takes queen, check. Bishop takes rook. Rook to g8, check. King to e7. Rook takes rook. Next, the threats are: there are no threats in this position. The checks are: f4, check. Solution to the puzzle is: f4, check. King to d4. Pawn takes knight. Let us go to the next puzzle. Let us look at threats in puzzle position. Bishop takes pawn. There are no checks in this position. Here is the solution to the puzzle. a5. Rook to b8. a6. Another puzzle. Let us look at threats in puzzle position. Rook takes pawn. Queen takes pawn, check. Bishop takes pawn, check. The checks are: queen takes pawn, check. Bishop takes pawn, check. The puzzle is solved using: rook takes pawn. Queen takes rook. Bishop takes pawn, check. King to h1. Bishop takes queen. Another puzzle. The threats are: king takes bishop. There are no checks in this position. Solution to the puzzle is: king takes bishop. Bishop to g4, check. King to g1. One more. Threats in puzzle position are: knight takes pawn. Knight takes pawn. Queen takes knight, check. Queen takes bishop. Let us look at checks in puzzle position. Queen takes knight, check. Queen to g2, check. Queen to f1, check. Queen to f3, check. Answer to this puzzle is: knight to g4. Queen takes knight. Pawn takes queen. Another puzzle. Threats in puzzle position are: rook takes knight. Queen takes rook. Queen takes knight. The checks are: rook to b8, check. Here is the solution to the puzzle. Rook takes knight. Queen takes rook. Queen takes rook. One more. The threats are: knight takes pawn, check. Knight takes bishop, check. Bishop takes bishop. Knight takes pawn. Here are checks in puzzle position. Knight to b6, check. Knight takes pawn, check. Knight takes bishop, check. Knight to f6, check. Knight to f4, check. Knight to e3, check. Solution to the puzzle is knight takes bishop, check. King to h8. Knight to g6, check. Pawn takes knight. Bishop takes queen. Let's continue. Here are the threats. Queen takes pawn. Queen takes pawn, check. Queen takes rook, check. Queen takes queen. Let us look at checks in puzzle position. Rook to f1, check. Queen takes pawn, check. Queen to f1, check. Queen to e1, check. Queen takes rook, check. Answer to this puzzle is rook to f1, check. Rook takes rook. Queen takes queen. Another one. Let us look at threats in puzzle position. Queen takes knight. Queen takes pawn, check. Let us look at checks in puzzle position. Queen takes pawn, check. Queen to e2, check. Queen to f1, check. Queen to d2, check. Queen to d1, check. Queen to b1, check. Queen to c3, check. The best move in puzzle position is rook to d8. Knight to d6. Rook takes knight. Queen takes queen. Rook takes queen. Let's see the next puzzle. Puzzle position vulnerabilities are knight takes bishop. Bishop takes knight. Bishop takes pawn. Queen takes pawn. There are no checks in this position. The best move in puzzle position is bishop takes knight. Pawn takes bishop. Queen takes queen. Rook takes queen. c5. One more. The threats are knight takes bishop. Knight takes knight. Here are checks in puzzle position. Knight to d3, check. The best move in puzzle position is knight to d3, check. Pawn takes knight. Rook takes rook. Rook takes rook. Rook takes rook. Next puzzle. The threats are there are no threats in this position. Here are the checks. Knight to g4, check. Knight to f3, check. The best move in puzzle position is knight to f3, check. King to h3. Knight to g5, check. King to h4. Knight takes rook. Let us go to the next puzzle. Here are threats in puzzle position. There are no threats in this position. Here are the checks. Rook to a7, check. Rook to b6, check. Queen to c7, check. Queen to b8, check. Queen to b3, check. Here is the solution to the puzzle. Queen to d6. Queen to f4, check. Queen takes queen. Another one. Threats in puzzle position are queen takes pawn, check. Queen takes rook. Here are checks in puzzle position. Rook to d1, check. Queen takes pawn, check. The puzzle is solved using queen takes pawn, check. King to h1. Queen to f1, checkmate. Next, puzzle position vulnerabilities are queen takes pawn. Queen takes pawn. Queen takes pawn. Queen takes knight. Pawn takes pawn. Here are checks in puzzle position. Rook to c8, check. The answer is bishop to d4. Knight to e4. Rook to f1. Bishop to f5. Queen to d1. Next puzzle. Here are threats in puzzle position. Bishop takes bishop. Knight takes pawn. Knight takes pawn. There are no checks in this position. The answer is bishop takes bishop. King takes bishop. Knight to f5, check. King to g8. Queen to h6. Let's see the next puzzle. Threats in puzzle position are rook takes rook. Knight takes pawn. Checks in this position are rook to f2, check. Queen to h3, check. Answer to this puzzle is queen to h3, check. King to g1. Queen takes rook, checkmate. One more. Puzzle position vulnerabilities are queen takes pawn, check. Queen takes pawn. Rook takes bishop, check. Checks in this position are queen to e6, check. Queen takes pawn, check. Rook takes bishop, check. Here is the solution to the puzzle. Queen takes pawn, check. Bishop to g7. Rook to f7. Queen to f8. Rook takes queen, check. Thank you for watching. Please like and subscribe.